Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. Before we get started, I just want to remind you to like, comment, share, follow, and subscribe. Now let's get on with today's show. If you're viewing or listening to this, chances are you're a self-published author. But I'm willing to bet that trying to get a traditional book deal contract with a publisher crossed your mind at some point. Or maybe it never did. That's why in all my self-publishing surveys, I've asked a question about traditional publishing. I wanted to know how informed self-published authors were about traditional publishing, if they did consider it, and when they did consider it. Just to clarify, traditional publishing means getting a book contract with a traditional publisher or using an agent, as opposed to using a platform such as Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, or Ingram Spark to do it all yourself. Participants were allowed to skip the question in the 2022 Self-Publishing Survey. 115 total responses were received for the question. To get an idea of the participants' knowledge of the two options, I did not explain what traditional publishing was and offered a don't understand answer option. In 2018, 7% of participants didn't understand the question, but in 2022, there were 0 authors who didn't understand what traditional publishing was. So I was encouraged to see that all authors had an understanding of this aspect of the publishing industry. In both 2016 and 2018, I offered a simple yes-no question about whether these authors considered traditional publishing. In 2022, to get a better idea of authors' interest in pursuing traditional or self-publishing, I offered more choices than yes-no. The goal of this question restructuring was to get a better idea of when authors might consider these options, and here's how they responded. 32% never considered traditional publishing. 22% did self-publish but hoped to get a traditional publishing deal someday. 16% self-published after not being able to get a traditional book publishing contract or deal. 7% had past books that were traditionally published, but now they self-publish. The most interesting responses to the question were the write-in answers. In fact, 23% of the respondents answered with a write-in response. As with the other questions that had write-in answers, many of the responses were variations or expansions on the standard answers offered. But in general, the unique write-in answers that were different from the standard answers could be categorized as, I don't have any books, so I can't answer the question. And these answers were obviously from those authors who don't yet have any books finished or on the market, and that was about 2% of the authors. My bad for not offering an option for those who haven't self-published yet. I considered traditional publishing, but then decided on self-publishing. The reasons offered for not choosing a traditional publishing path centered on control or realization of the disadvantages of traditional publishing. This is a different response than the standard answer of not being able to get a traditional book deal. These authors likely looked at traditional publishing but didn't pursue it and went with self-publishing. And that was about 4% of the authors. And another answer group was, I'm a hybrid author. These authors do both traditional and self-published books. This is also a different answer than those authors who did self-publishing after traditional publishing, and it's also a different answer than those who self-publish but hope to get a traditional book deal someday. Hybrid authors may pursue both paths equally or simultaneously. And that was 4% of the authors. So I'll be including these 3 additional answer options in future surveys as standard answers. I anticipated there would be a difference in consideration of traditional publishing based on genre. As expected, less fiction authors, or 26%, considered self-publishing as a first or only choice, compared to nonfiction authors, where 33% of them considered self-publishing as their first or only choice. While there's a difference between the genres, it is not a very large difference. This suggests that authors of both genre types consider traditional publishing options about equally, but fiction authors might be more inclined to do so. Aside from the additional insight received from this new, more detailed question, it should be noted that the ratio of authors who still consider self-publishing as a first or exclusive option has stayed pretty consistent. In 2022, 32% of authors never considered traditional publishing. In 2018, 28% of authors responded they didn't consider traditional publishing, and in 2016, it was 31%. So the proportion of authors for whom self-publishing is an exclusive or first option consistently hovers around 1 out of 3 authors. With the wide availability and ease of self-publishing these days, I'm surprised that a greater share of authors aren't automatically choosing the self-published path. I don't know if that's because they still want the prestige of getting a book deal in spite of the odds of them ever getting a deal and the questionable financial rewards that they might get from it. Or maybe authors understand the difficulties of book production and marketing and just want to pass that off to someone else who can do it better than they can. Given that authors' top motivation response is that they love writing and their top challenges are that they aren't making enough money and they don't know how or where to market and sell their books, I think this is a likely explanation for these results. If you want the full written report from the 2022 Self-Publishing Survey, it is available on Amazon as a Kindle ebook or on Kindle Unlimited. I hope you found this interesting or helpful, and if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast app you like to use. I'm on all the major ones, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you like the YouTube video better, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is at Heidi Thorne Channel, and turn on the notifications so that you'll get an alert when a new video is up. I would appreciate it if you would share the audio or the video with your friends on social media. My self-published books are available on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is go to one of those sites, type in my name, Heidi Thorne, and my author page will come up with a list of all available titles. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode, and in the meantime, have a great day.